Hi guys, welcome. How
Well,
you doing?
thank you.
Hi.
All good.
Good stuff. So what I want you to do is describe what you do in one sentence and why you're crucial to what we see on our screens. Starting from anybody.
I'll jump in. Bridging the gap between what you see and what you feel. Writing music that helps you emote to what it is that you're seeing.
And why are you crucial to what we see on screen?
I'm crucial because without music, the emotional element can be missing.
Okay.
Playing the subtext.
Very cool answer. Jan?
Yeah, I'm a multi-camera director, and I guess we're the central hub to what happens in TV broadcasts. We are the centre. We're the person who pulls all of the other skills together and executes that for a live output or pre-recorded output. So we blend everyone's skills together and make that happen.
Bridge?
Yeah, I'm an editor, so I would say it's my role to kind of honour the characters, really. So it's about empathy for me. It's about connection to the story, connection to the characters, emotional tone, as you're talking about there. And I think I bring that just because, yeah, I like people. I'm interested in people. I like interaction.
I'm a costume supervisor. I suppose the same. I sort of within a department. I work with like a lot of people, so it's bringing it together through the way people look or creating a sense of a character and building it through the clothing.
How did you guys get into what you do, and what was the trigger that made you? Because I would say crew, it's very niche. There's so many departments. How did you navigate and say that this is the part of the crew that I want to be?
I started off in fashion. I come from a family of seamstresses, so clothing has always sort of been in my world. And I worked in a theatre, and I got into it by chance, really. I saw an advert in The Guardian, which was film and television freelance training, and applied. Didn't even think of film as an option. Applied and got it, and sort of been in it ever since. So luck.
Yeah, similar for me.
So polite.
Yeah, similar for me. I mean, I Saturday Morning Pictures was my first kind of, I love this escapism and I love films. So I did a bit of research and I found an offline company in Shepherd's Bush in the London Evening Standard in 1991 and applied. And from there, that led on to JobFit or FT2, which was an apprenticeship scheme that I did for 2 years. And then from then, I was an assistant editor for many years, and then ultimately now an editor. So it was a series of jumps. But when I first walked into that offline editing company, 91, I think it was, I just felt like I'd come home. I knew I had found my place.
My opening gag is where'd you get that?
Forever 21.
Well, that's a bit of irony if I ever heard it.
We've loved having you here.
Oh God, yeah, I've had the time of my life.
Like I said, this is not a spa, it's a rehab facility.
Is she fixed?
God, do you ever just want to feel something for 5 minutes?
You really are cracking boobs.
I know.
You've got a fire in you, and you can use that to burn yourself and everyone else around you down.
Right, well, I was just sort of hoping for the lottery numbers, but okay.
Jan?
I guess I stumbled into TV in general, and certainly stumbled into multi-camera directing. I guess I'd have to take it back to school days, really. For me, I was kind of, I guess, your average C, maybe B grade student. I wasn't excellent at anything. I was okay at most things. I underperformed at A levels, and I kind of found myself in a situation where at university it was limited options for me, let's put it that way. And and I ended up on a computer and network technology course. And I guess the way my mind works is if I'm not great at anything, I'll just go in the direction that I'm best at. So I'll get rid of what I'm not good at, and I'll just kind of treat. So I was kind of getting B's and C's, so I just dropped off the C's and I just went in the B's direction. And that took me into media technology and digital broadcast. And at the end of university, I managed to get an internship for a company called Bloomberg, and broadcast technical operations role. And from there, it kind of just introduced me to all of the elements that are involved in making television. So it meant I'd do sound, I'd do cameras, I'd do a bit of lighting, I'd do hot head operating, and I'd direct mini shows and mini 10-minute shows. And again, I wasn't excellent at any specific area, but I found I had a general grasp of all of it and what everybody did. And what I was good at was communicating, building the team, and kind of being able to deliver an output. So it kind of took me into directing. When an opportunity came up, I kind of grabbed it with both hands and went with it.
Is it easy to cut your teeth in the fields that you guys are in? Like, you know, actors get to audition, try and try again. How do you guys get to a point where you're even recognised for the role that you do?
I think for me, it's certainly in my world anyway, it's relationships. You work with one person and you develop a relationship, and hopefully they're happy with the output and they come back. You've got to be out there. It's a very social business, and so actually I spend quite a lot of time out and about mingling and mixing, going to sort of film festivals and that kind of thing, just consuming the product. And when you're out and about enjoying, you know, festivals and stuff, you're mingling and mixing with people like yourself who are all into the storytelling arts, you know. And off the back of that, you get talking about what you do, what they do, and sometimes you find, you know, it's a good pool for meeting collaborators.
As a composer, you always is it always just you? Or is there ever a situation where there's a team with you a lot?
So a lot of the times I'd explain or describe my sort of day-to-day as musical solitary confinement.
Yeah, I got an image of you just in your room.
So most of the time I'll be on my own, but one of the reasons why I love the filmmaking world so much is that it's so collaborative.
Yeah.
And so I love to get involved in projects quite early, often at the script stage, because again, I'm just a lover of the storytelling process, and so it always blows my mind how the text is the text, so the script says one thing, but given to different directors, you'll get a completely different output. And so that always just amazes me. And actually, one of the best learning experiences actually was working in on a TV show.
What show?
And so,
Can you say?
Venus versus Mars.
Okay, yeah.
And that was my first time working on a sort of big TV, working with a big broadcaster. And so I was brought in and I got to sit in the cutting room with the editors and stuff. And actually, that was an education for me as to how collaborative the whole process of storytelling is, and how many different voices and opinions there are on any sort of one sort of project. But yeah, it's just how so many minds working together collaboratively just creates the best outcome. Yeah.
Costume making is quite collaborative as well.
Yeah.
How does that work, and what comes first for you in regards to how you?
So for me, it would be getting the script.
Okay.
So you get the script and you read through it, and you've got to see. So you're looking like for extras, who's in the background, how many different characters, how many different story days, and what changes there are, and what periods they're going through, and then doing a budget. Getting that budget through so that you can get what your designer wants and what you need as a team would be my first process. And then you sort of then bring the rest of the team in, like the assistant designers, and then you do a lot of work up to the actual film. With a period film, it'd be doing a workroom, getting your cutter and getting the designs and the fabrics and everything over to your cutter to start building those characters. There's a process with the designer and the director to see what the director's thinking, and if the designer's along the same wavelength, and them coming together so that you can sort of feed that through to your team to build, you know, a wardrobe for those different characters.
Might have to do a lot of research.
Lots of research, a lot of research, yeah.
So, Bridge, you come in at the end, I guess, right?
Well, that's a misconception actually, because I'm about to start another series, a comedy series, and I'm about to go to a script to read through. It's just the Roundtable read through where you've got most of the cast and all, hopefully, heads of department, and we just sit there and listen to the actors, just read the scripts. But it's also an opportunity for the crew to have conversations that they may not have conversations with before the shoot starts.
How does that inform what you do as an editor?
Well, it's a script. It's always about the script, isn't it? Everyone, I mean, this is where you start. And then for me, I'm kind of looking at perhaps stylistically how the director might want to shoot something. You know, are they going to be interested in the cutting style of jump cuts, or is it more naturalistic? You know, will they be, on this one it's a pretty tight schedule, so I don't think they're going to be having a very high shooting ratio, for example. I think that they'll probably just have a couple of takes per setup and crack on, so it might just be 2 shots. And so it's that kind of thing of like, oh, it'd be really nice to try and get perhaps obviously I'm an editor, I like to cut, but I actually also like not to cut. So if they can block and have the actors move through the frame, so you're actually cutting with your eyes because the repositioning and the blocking is more interesting. I'm interested in those conversations, and definitely interested in talking to the director before the shoot to see if there's any references perhaps he might want me to have a look at. I've been given a couple of film references, so I'll go away and have a look at that film or TV show, and we're not going to copy it, but we're just going to kind of get into the head of the director. We're, you know, as facilitators, we're always trying to get into the head of the director and trying to get what they've got in there, he or she, on that screen, you know, first, and then we'll get the notes from the studio, in my case, or the channel, and all the other voices come in. But for me, I'm very much interested in what the director's vision is. And then, you know, I might want to be seen about building a sound library, because I'll have to be putting in sound effects, you know, just for the offline cut. Music, very important. Will there be a composer on board? Luckily, we are going to have a composer on board, hopefully quite early on. And any commercial tracks that might be used in the script, then I'll be building, you know, a library of those choices that they've made, and we may not be able to afford them. But, you know, it's very much the collaborative aspect that I very much enjoy. It's
just as she was about to drink a drink. What do you need? Where do you come in as the multi-camera director? What do you need for you to direct? Do you need the script at all? No, I mean, you probably do, but
it kind of all depends. A lot of what I do is non-scripted. So there is no script at all. There are a lot of the shows I do that are scripted. The script's coming at the very last minute. So our priority is, okay, what is the show? What is the structure? Is it a panel show, a game show, an entertainment show? If it is, it's about setting the core elements of that show first. So where's the location? Okay, so I want to have my team together. I want my camera supervisor, I want my set designer, I want my lighting director, I want my sound supervisor, I want all of these people around us, and then we'll do a recce at the location first. Okay, and then we'll look at, I'll be working very closely with my camera supervisor, looking at, okay, can we shoot this well? Is this going to work? This is where this will go, this is where the audience will go, have we got enough space? We've got all of these. Then we've got sound, looking at the areas that are going to impact them. Is it an outside location where we might have sound issues, that kind of thing? The lighting director, listening to very much involved in what we're saying and what we're doing, and trying to complement what we're doing at the same time. So it's that's the core team that usually start off, obviously alongside the producer or the exec producer who work on it as well. Then it's about, so first of all, we're getting a look, can we shoot in this location? And then it's, okay, now how are we going to shoot it? And then it's that process of working with that set designer. So, okay, this is the vision. It's a young show. It's lively. It's entertainment. It's vibrant. I'll be like, I want the audience close to the stage. I want or they're going to be standing up. So I'll have these overall initial thoughts, and then the set designer will get busy, and they'll start getting to work and start kind of come up with what they think, and then there'll be a back and forth between us. I'll also bring the camera supervisor into that, who will be thinking, yeah, we can shoot it like this, back and forth. Then the budget talks come in, how many cameras can we afford, what's essential, what's going to be the creative elements, and then we get into it. And a lot of the time we won't actually see the script until maybe a couple of days sometimes, and even then the scripts will get changed on the day. So generally the script we'll need a general gist of what's going on and more of a running order, but when it comes to the specifics of the script, a lot of the time it's nowhere near as important as it is in film.
So how do you guys deal with those last minute changes? Because I think there's a lot of prep work. I don't know whether, well, yeah, you do. You've said you've done a lot of prep work. So how do you deal with that? Like, we're going in a different direction.
Well, you know, once the cameras start turning, I'm just a day behind the shoot, so I'm very much involved during the shoot. So they shoot Monday, I get the rushes Tuesday, and so on it goes and I'm assembling. So it might be that if that's what you're asking, possibly they might have a change in maybe how an actor performs a particular scene, you know, or a characterization. They might decide, I don't know, but in terms of going in a different direction, it's malleable once the shoot is over and we can start fine cutting. That's the next process with the director, that we will start making, people funnier, less funnier, sadder, all that kind of stuff. We can, if we've got the footage, then we can kind of manipulate and make changes, but we won't be able to turn a horror movie into a comedy.
I mean, that's one trick. You're working afterwards as well, so I mean,
so
the changes affect you in any way?
Yeah, no, changes are a fact of life.
Right.
So I'll usually get an early assembly. So once they finish shooting and they've sort of got the footage together, the rough shape of the story, they'll send that over to me, and I'll just start sketching out ideas based on that. But as the sort of the editorial process proceeds, that assembly changes continuously. It's nice to start with a locked cut, but the reality is that ideas evolve and everyone's just trying to get the best picture possible. And so decisions have to be made to make people funnier, less funnier, or give more of this and less of that. And so practically that creates issues and challenges for me, because I'll be working to sort of hit certain beats, sort of moments in time where something musical has to happen to highlight a particular dramatic moment. And then when that shifts by a second or so, that whole, it's a fact of life.
Well, it's not a blame culture, but it is.
It's just a process.
Yeah.
But ultimately, most of the time, the decisions that are made in that way are to make the picture better, and so you're happy to do it. It does create challenges because it made musical sense. Let's say 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, cut 2, 3, and then it's 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, cut, and it's like, okay, got to go back to the drawing board and sort of massage it.
Have you had to pull and change to from a period drama to a superhero?
No.
I don't know.
No, but there are changes. Changes do happen, but usually it depends on how much it's going to cost.
Okay.
So if I can make it cost too much, those changes won't happen.
So you're manipulating.
Which is sometimes like if you sort of
Can't do
going
that.
too far into it, and you're like, this is going to be hell for the department, you try and make it really costly so that it doesn't happen. Because once you're in that process, once something's been made and all those hours have been spent, and for them to just turn it round and say, no, actually we're going this way, is not good for the team or morale or anything like that. So sometimes if you can try and limit damage limitation for your department, it's better not to have
It'd be nice to have that. Hey, I can just say, no, that cut's going to cost you.
Yeah.
That dissolve is going to cost you more. I'm not going to, know.
Yeah.
Who's your best friend on set?
I'm not really on set. In fact, I
well,
hate set.
in your world,
But
in your skill set.
departments,
Yeah,
you
in departments, I should say.
My best friends in the production generally tend to be directors and editors.
Okay.
Yeah. Editors often because I'm feeding the material to them, but they've also got sometimes a better grasp on practically how things are going to end up, because the director's sort of shot it, and the editor's got a really good understanding as to how they're going to realise the director's vision. So being in sync with the editor really helps to really get inside the project.
I was going to ask you that because you have Justin Hurwitz and Nicholas Britell, and they've got great relationships with Damien Chazelle, that's Justin Hurwitz, and Nicholas has got a great relationship with Barry Jenkins, the director. So that's a director-composer relationship.
Yeah.
Do you have someone like that, or is it?
Yeah, no, I'm fortunate enough to work with directors who I continue to work with, and so you start somewhere and you continue to develop an understanding. Every director's got a different sort of perspective on the world, and so as you sort of get brought into their thinking, you kind of develop a shorthand, you kind of understand their grammar or their language or their approach to storytelling. And I think as you develop that relationship, you kind of get into their language. It makes it easy for them to communicate what it is that they want, and there's often a difference between what's articulated and what they really mean. And so early in the process, it's about teasing out what these things are and what's their perspective on the world. And as you establish that, it makes it much easier to go. So it doesn't surprise me at all that you develop these long-standing relationships.
Hello. It's me. I've been trying to reach you for a while. I know you're busy. I guess I keep missing you.
It's interesting you saying that, because I guess in my world, it's almost like the opposite way round. So with yourself, you kind of get the film or you get the script and you create the music for it. A lot of times what I'm doing is we might get a band or music performance and I'll script to that performance. So it's the music's already there, they've already got a track, these people are performing, we need to cover that performance. So then I'm scripting music to the performance, or we're busking the music. So if it's somebody like a Stormzy type person, for example, someone who every performance might change differently. One time they might walk to the left, next one they might walk to the right. One time they might jump up. One time, so in a situation like that, you'll bust the music. So in that situation, your vision mixer is your best friend, because you need somebody who's in sync with your way of thinking, who you can trust to kind of, you can focus on setting up the cameras, making sure you're getting the right angles, and you can leave them to cut at the time, because there's no way you're going to be able to call every single cut at the right time, because by the time you call it and they cut it, it's too late, you're off the beat every single time. So you really need your vision mixer to be in sync, and then your script supervisor who sit the other side of you, that person's the person who's going to count all your beats and your bars. So they're going to bar count for you, so that person and the vision mixer need to be in sync, but they are both working almost with you, so you can focus on making sure those cameras are doing it. You've got the script supervisor.
Sounds like some ESP business.
It's literally like that. It's literally like that. So for me with us is, and then on the floor you need your camera supervisor and your floor manager. So many people that are so crucial.
So you've got lots of friends on set.
It's literally. Everybody's your best friend, man. All of those heads of department, you really need them to be pulling together, because in those situations you can't say, oh, we've got that wrong, can you do it again? And again, they're there for a set period of time. You might have one take, or you might have 2 takes max, and then you're off and you might have another performance, or you have to move on. So yeah.
So do you research for example, where artists are concerned, you sort of research their kind of performance style and stuff, so you can sort of try and capture the possibilities and angles?
Absolutely. Yeah, not like just a few weeks ago I did a show with Bros, and they had 5 music numbers they're performing. So and I guess part of the obstacle is you don't know if they're doing a festival version, a kind of radio edit version. So you try and make sure you get a version as early as possible, but often it might not be their number one priority to send you the exact version they're going to be performing. So you get a version, but you kind of want to start scripting it, but you're not sure if that's going to be the version they're going to perform. And if it's not, you can waste a hell of a lot of time scripting something.
So where's the satisfaction in your role? Where do you get that? Yeah, I've done a good job here.
I suppose it's when you go to set and you see everything's come together. It's like the hair and like you can see at the beginning you're seeing costume, but when hair and makeup's in there and you've got the props in there and then you've got the scenery and everyone comes together and you're just like, it's worth it.
Now you will believe. Artemis Fowl.
What about you guys?
Yeah, for me, it kind of happens in stages, because, it's for me just the first response, I suppose, from the director, from the assembly, because it feels like I always feel quite exposed for that. Particularly, it's like somebody sort of seeing you half dressed or something, because, it's kind of, it's long, it's over time, you kind of put in all the shots that they've done, and it can be a bit flabby and a bit boring, but there's not a line missing from the script. And you kind of want to get in there, but you've got to kind of show them everything. So if the response to that is good, then I feel like great, then I've kind of got their vision in place. And then I would say towards the end of the process, and we've gone down the long road with the writer and the exec producers and the channel, and they watch it, they come into the cutting room and they watch it, and their responses are good, then that feels pretty good. That feels pretty good. Yeah.
You guys?
The spotting session, so sometimes when I'm working on a project and the director comes over for a spotting session, we might just, the conversation might develop and certain ideas might come immediately while they're having the discussion, so I'll sort of open up some instruments and start.
Can I pause you?
Go.
What is the spotting session?
The spotting session is effectively the time where you get to sit down with the director and editor, or whoever else in the production team, to watch through the film and basically decide on where there needs to be music, which spots you need to have music in, and then what the purpose of that music is to serve. So there shouldn't be music there just because. So it's my job to sort of understand, what's this piece of music here for, what's the overall aesthetic, and then what purpose does this piece of music serve. So depending on how you write a piece of music at any moment, you could be identifying with one or another character, or identifying the location. And so depending on the sort of the shape of the story and the narrative, music will play a different purpose. And so that spotting session helps me understand where and what's its purpose. So that's the first one, and then the final one will be once the picture's been locked and all the cues have been signed off and the director's happy, and we're watching it back for the cast and crew screening. That's the time at which I can be objective and I can just see it as a piece of work and just appreciate it for what it is. So it's like the very beginning and the very end.
What about you?
I guess for me there's 3 key stages. The first one is obviously, especially if it's a show that you're kind of launching from scratch. Show doesn't exist. Exec producer comes to you and says, this is my idea, and brings you on board to create that idea and turn it into a reality. So the first thing is when you've seen an empty space and it's an idea in someone's head, and you get to that point where you and the set designer have got a visual. You've got your first visual, and it's a well-designed visual that producer can now be excited about and visualise that, wow, it's almost better than what I thought, or this is becoming a reality. You've got the visual. Then you get to the studio day, and that visual is still just a perception in your head, because you arrive to the studio, it's empty, there's nothing there. But you get in the morning and you see the gaffer and the lighting guys come in, and it looks like a shell of something, and then the art team come in, and then you start seeing audience rails come in, and then you see riggers come in, and then and all of a sudden you see it start building, and then you get to kind of like 4 or 5 hours before the shoot, and you've got a shell of something there, and all of a sudden and then you see the audience come in. And then you see the talent come in, all of a sudden you're like, we're here. Second key moment. And then when you get the shoot, when you're doing the shoot and you're there, you just want to get that shoot, you make it clean. So you don't really appreciate the actual polished product until it's gone in the edit and you see that polished product on the outside. So when you're actually shooting it and directing it, you're making sure your shots are clean, but I guess your vision is a little bit more focused on making sure everything comes together. Sound, lighting, camera, all the logistics come together and it works. And then after that it's breathe, then it's right, now it's gone to the edit have cut it together, I can just sit back and watch it, and you get that final moment when you think, oh, I'm happy with it now.
We did it.
Yeah.
We made it again.
It's like that.
We got away with it.
Yeah, got away with it again.
Do you guys feel like the unsung heroes at all?
I like it that way.
Do you?
For me.
You like to be out of the limelight?
Absolutely.
Not enough, Oscar-winning editors kind of...
I've got my eye on Thelma Schumacher's career, because she works, she's worked on very fine projects, and she's kind of, I suppose, of all editors, perhaps has risen a bit more in prominence. I think she got awarded a BAFTA Longevity Lifetime Achievement Award or something. I think it was last year. So I think I might be generalising, but I think by nature editors tend to be shy and retiring and not really interested in chatting about what they do, and it's called the invisible art, I think. But I love what I do. I don't care if anyone doesn't know what it is or doesn't celebrate me. I'm still going to do it.
We had Ruthie Carter, the first African-American woman, African-American to win the Oscar for Best Costume Designer for Black Panther.
Yeah, which was amazing.
Yeah, how did you feel about that?
It was it was amazing. It was just like, and the film was stunning. Like I can still, like, we booked to see it. Like the whole family went, and the costumes were amazing. And they referenced real tribes, and I sort of went back and had a look through the process, and you could see who she was referencing, and you could see it on the screen, and that she'd done it so well. And to see her awarded for that, and people like, oh, it's just a superhero movie, but it was so much more than that.
How did that impact you as a costume supervisor?
It was like, how do I get my CV to her? Is she coming over? No, it was more. it was a bit of recognition. It was like you could sort of go into work and you'd be like, yeah, like, you know, there is somebody that represents, because there's not really many black people when you turn up to work. I still get put into, like, if I turn up somewhere where there's lots of crowd, I get sent to go and get my hair and makeup done or whatever.
wow.
They don't see me as the person that is, and I'm like, no, I'm part of the crew sort of thing. But no, it was I don't even know how to describe it, but it was just amazing. It was just amazing to see that happen.
Have any of you guys worked on a project that is that kind of speaks to your culture or who you are as people, your background, heritage, or something? Or is there a project that's out there that you're like, I wish?
Yeah, there's a project going at the moment called Jingle Jangle.
Okay.
And
yes.
that is near enough for all black cast with African reference in there. And for me, you don't really, I don't know what you guys think, but you don't really see us represented in that sort of way. Like, you know, there's lots of stereotypes of programs that are out there. Now there's more coming out, which is good. Like, which is the way that we should be going, rather than portraying the stereotypes all the time, which just annoys the hell out of me. It really does.
Sadly I haven't been involved. I mean, there was Kwame Kwei-Ama. I did a short little kind of teaser thing. He wanted to do a feature film, The Lonely Londoner, and then his career just blew up, didn't it? I mean, not that was going to be something ultimately that I would have been involved in, but it interested me. But no, I mean, I usually am the only gay in the village when I turn up, you know, for work, usually, you know. Certainly in comedy, I mean, I think there's hardly any women comedy editors, if you want to define yourself as a particular genre editor. And certainly, I think you're looking at the only black woman comedy editor, as far as I can see.
In the UK?
No. Well, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm only just kind of starting to get my feet on the ladder, definitely, you know, and I've had nothing but support from and goodwill, and I haven't experienced anything that I would think, you know, was unusual. I think I just always tend to go against the trend, as it were. There's lots of women in drama, lots of female drama editors. There's a long-standing tradition of women editors from silent movies, you know. My passion is comedy. So, you know, I've just kind of gone into that knowing that it was something that I love. So, with that, I think comes with the fact that I look around, it's like, gosh, yeah, I've had a comment like, gosh, you're a woman editor, you know, a woman in comedy. Oh, that's unusual, you know. But that's okay.
You're a bit of an anomaly on set, aren't you? In your world, factual, entertainment.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I've got an eclectic mix, I guess, of stuff that I've done. I'd say that predominantly I'm an entertainment director. Okay. And I guess just going back to your original question, last year I directed a pilot show for Mo Gilligan's.
Yeah, I was going to ask.
So I directed his, and I guess for me that was kind of I guess quite a key point in my career, because Mo's someone I've watched and I've admired him for a long time. So I've bought tickets to go to his shows like for the past 5-6 years. I've kind of seen him perform in various places, and I actually had already bought tickets for he's Getting a Couple of Cans tour before this job even came up. Yeah. And it just turned out that the tickets I bought were like 2 days before the shoot, so it ended up being prep. But and I didn't realise I could have ended up getting free tickets as part of it.
No worries, it's a tax write-off.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. Make sure I do that. But what was great about that is that I felt that I was at an advantage because I knew I felt like not I know him, but because I kind of followed him already. Yeah. I was kind of quite familiar with how he interacted, and I knew that even if you structure something as a show, there's an element about Mo that he's going to go with what he's feeling at the moment in time, and that's what makes him so good. And the way that we decided to shoot it, I thought was really authentic to how he was, and just allowed him to kind of almost just be himself. And interact with the crowd as he does really well, but also kind of bring in the characters, which is another really good element of his performance. So no, it was something that I kind of really enjoyed doing. But it's really the only time that I've kind of up until this year where we kind of developed with my production company, we've developed a taster for a new series, which I can't go too much into at the moment, but it's something we're working on. Where we're looking at some gaps in the market, and we're looking at where we think there's a demand, and I guess there's only so long you can kind of hope somebody else does something and then hope you're on it, and there has to come a point when you say, well, hold on, I've been doing this for long enough. I'm going to do something about it, and I'm going to kind of make something myself. And you look at the other people around you who are kind of on the same page, and people are sitting around this round table now. People like that who have got the skills, got the experience, and you come together and you try and make something happen. So that's what we're doing at the moment.
Sure enough. And anything that you've worked on that's culturally impactful for you?
It's funny because for me, I feel like in any project that I've really sort of been emotionally invested in, it's a process of sort of identifying with a character or a story or a journey, and actually it doesn't necessarily have to be a story about something that I personally experienced, or it could be a family, a friend, or whatnot, but it's almost following a human journey, and like there are universal themes, you know, love, pain, you know, the struggle. These are universal themes, and so when I'm working on a project, it's about finding that thing that sort of speaks to me emotionally, because it's that thing that I need to sort of tap into to sort of come up with the ideas that really sort of represent that character.
So is there anything that you say no to? Does it apply when it comes to your skill sets?
If it's not funny, I'm not doing it.
Okay. That's
a good start.
That's a great start. I think a lot of it depends on at what point you are in your career.
Okay.
Certainly as a multi-camera director, to start off with, you kind of need to just get air miles, if you like. You need to just have experience doing it. And then it comes to a point where you can make a decision to steer your career in a set direction. So some directors are happy just kind of directing what comes as and when, as long as it's kind of paying the bills. That's not for me. For me, it needs to be. For me, I'm in a situation where it needs to be something that I'm interested in. It doesn't need to tick every single box, but for me, I'm all about entertainment, and like the reality side of stuff. I've done a lot of reality series and stuff as well, and there's still an element where there's room for that as well. But it has to be the right kind of show. It has to be the right kind of show.
So what's the wrong reality or entertainment show, and what's the right one for you?
Well, I guess for me, I've done a lot of kind of just dating type shows. So stuff, someone like Geordie Shore would never be something for me.
Okay.
Something like I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here. I've kind of directed that a few times. I'm going to be going to Jungle again this year. Something like that. There's value in that. So like for me, I'm a series challenge director on that. So it means I'm involved in shaping a challenge from nothing, and I work with the challenge producer team, and then we look and then figuring out what needs to be built, how we're going to shoot it, how's this challenge going to work, and it's something every day. So there's a challenge in there for me, and for me that's something I could be excited about. So that's a reality series, if you like, or entertainment, somewhere between the two, where that is valuable. So for me, it's down to the individual. But yes, there's a lot. There are various projects that I would say no to if it's not the right kind of thing, and a lot of that's just about steering your career in the direction you want it to go.
I do love to create a little bit of vibe with the show, and I think that's the beautiful thing about the show. You know, anyone can create a vibe with the show. What's your name, madam? You in the white top. What is your name?
Isis.
Where now?
Isis.
Your name's what?
Isis.
This guy here looks mad worried, you know? This is going to be on the Daily Mail tomorrow, boy. ISIS infiltrate comedy show. With a picture of Raheem Sterling for no reason.
Dressed? Somebody you wouldn't dress? Or?
No, not projects. I suppose, yeah, I am now at a stage where I can say no to things. And it's generally if I don't see, you know, brown people in a good light.
Okay.
I'll say no to them.
And that's your...
Yeah.
I mean, for me also, I mean, because I tend to do comedy drama, so I have a sort of a film background, so for me it's got to have this light and dark, this kind of naturalistic kind of authenticity of life for me. I'm not interested in scripts where people are sleeping on banana skins all the time or weeping all the time. I mean, who wants that? I want the light and dark. So I like comedy in my drama, and I like drama in my comedy, and I want it to be authentic.
Nice.
So I tend not to want to work on projects that create fear and division and that reinforce stereotypes of any kind, racial, gender. I'm not interested. I'm interested in the subtleties and complexities of human life. Figure it out.
Are you a jack of all trades when it comes to genre? Is the strength of a good composer, editor, costume designer, multi-camera director, someone who can work across genre, or someone who works on one genre to perfection? Is that a thing in what you do?
Certainly for me, I think, particularly in the early stages, I think I would just say yes to everything and do a bit of everything. But I think as I've sort of matured somewhat and got a bit more mileage on the clock, I realised that actually I'm not for every job, and actually, you know, there are certain things I'm really good at and certain things that really interest me, and those are the things that I'm best suited to working on.
Is that genre specific, or that just project specific?
It's not, I wouldn't say necessarily genre specific. So my thing is, I'm really sort of interested in the interplay between sort of the grey space between music and sound design, and sort of how they kind of overlap. So I'll seek out projects that allow me to sort of explore that idea or that concept or that world more so. But at the same time, I can be invited onto a project that I don't necessarily have experience in, but it's a musical world that I've not explored and I'm excited and intrigued to sort of venture into, and so I'll say yes to. But there are certain things that I just know it's outside of my skill set, and or the story isn't something that sort of resonates with me, and I can't emotionally get on board with it. And so I know it's just going to be a lot of hard work to try and create something that's just not really going to work. And so I think having got some mileage on the clock, you start to realise that, you know what, there's a composer out there that's probably better and will bring more value to it than me.
I was going to say, I think there's a lot to what you say, and I guess from my perspective, there's certainly value in having experience across multiple genres. And there's also different skills. Something like news, the creativity is caged, if you like. There's a limited element of creativity, but you need to be sharp, you need to be able to multitask, you need to be able to listen to people and deliver something that is spot on, quickly and instantly in a live turnaround with no second chance. Something like sport, you're following the action. So again, creativity is limited, and there's also an element of unpredictability. You don't know what's going to happen. Someone could be sent off, so whatever. You've got to be able to react to it and do it. Something like entertainment is a lot more in the planning. So it's a lot more about the whole process of before, then shooting, and then even after into the edit at some point as well. Reality, again, element of unpredictability. So there's things you can put. So by having experience doing them all, you can definitely pull bits of everything into whichever area you want to go into. But I think ultimately, when you look at the pinnacle of your game or your area, from my perspective, the best people are the people who hone more of that experience and focus on what they're best at.
Yeah.
And what they're most passionate about. And I think that's where you're ultimately gonna get the best people.
I agree with that. I mean, you know, most of what I say to people that want to join the industry is what are you interested in? Otherwise it's just like everything, I'll do anything. And it's like, no, you're good for something. So just have a real good think about that. And for me, at the moment, it seems to be comedy, sort of drama comedy for me. I think there's enough in that for me to just keep me going for a long time, you know. I just find it fascinating. I do find it fascinating.
So Viveene, how do you stand out as, if you don't do period costuming or sci-fi, something that's that looks like it's taking a lot of work, say in a modern contemporary and just, you know, it's modern clothes, how do you stand out?
You know what, I don't really do that much modern, and it's not something that I'm very interested in, because
you can't get to play?
Because there's nothing there. You're not building anything. You're not creating. Not that you're not creating anything. You are, but I think I like a bit of hard work. I'm drawn to the hardness of, you know, creating something from a piece of fabric. So I tend to do more of the jobs that are either fantasy or period, where you do have to construct something or you do have to do a lot of research, because I love the research part of it. So that's sort of where I'm drawn, and
Was it
anymore.
crowded over in the period fantasy space, and then the contemporary area is like, please help us?
There's so much going on. Like
Right.
it's crowded everywhere.
Yeah,
like
fair enough.
there's so much going on at the moment. The industry is actually booming. So there's enough for
Okay. So how important is an agent or a manager, or to get those jobs where you can make you've got the power over what you do? How important is it for you guys?
It's funny. I've just probably had my agent now for a couple of years, maybe 3 years actually. And yeah, it's got a different flavour to it. It's interesting to build a relationship with somebody who has to kind of get you. Do you know what I mean? Get the kind of projects that make you kind of excited to go along for the meetings. I've done a lot of kind of, I suppose they'd be called general meetings. I didn't realise that was what they were called until a director said, "Oh, I've got a general." I was like, "What's that?" He's like, "Oh, there's no project. I'm just like going along." I was like,
chit-chat.
"I've been doing that for years. I had no idea." So when you have an agent, of course, you are going up for that job. Now I kind of feel like actors, like shit. When you don't get it, it's like, you can feel really quite, crestfallen about it, particularly if you really wanted it. But I think it's good. It's nice to have that support, I have to say, particularly when you are going up for lots of meetings and you're not getting anything, that they're like, "It's all right, Bridge, keep going, be fine." Which I didn't have when it was just me knocking on those doors, and I've got I'm like stubborn and I'm patient and persistent. So I just I'm going to get there. I'm just going to keep on going anyway. So, but now I've got somebody to travel with me. So that's nice. That's nice.
Is it necessary?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I guess from my perspective, multi-camera directors in TV, they rarely have agents in the UK. Usually, or certainly in entertainment anyway. A lot of the time, if they go over to the US, then they'll get an agent. Over here, it's less common. I think that's a big part because a lot of getting brought onto projects is down to your relationship with the producers.
Okay.
And the producer wants to pick up the phone and call you, or the production manager wants to call you and speak to you. And sometimes an agent, I guess that there's an angle where you can argue that an agent might be effective, but the agent would need to already have really good relationships with all of these people in TV and then be able to put you on board. I've had some people approach me about representing me as an agent, and for me the major stumbling block was that they didn't have those kind of connections in TV where they already had those relationships. Literally, people will call me for another show because they've worked on me on the previous show and say, "Oh yeah, I've got this show, Jan, are you available?" So if that agent doesn't have that relationship where they can do that, then it's a little bit difficult. So yeah, I think there's certainly potentially room, but it's not something we have at the moment.
Okay, so I'm going to ask about what you lot watching now, and what have you got coming up next, starting with Viveene.
I have just started on the 3rd season of Dear White People.
Are you approving of their wardrobe?
Actually, I've been looking at hair mostly.
Oh, really?
But yeah, because they're young. They're young people, so it doesn't. Well, I suppose it represents. It's a different world. It's America, and they're in college, so I'm guessing that's how they dress.
Skeptical. But what are you watching now? I mean, sorry, my bad. What have you got coming up?
As in,
work-wise, any projects you're working on?
I'm currently working on a project called Louis Wayne, which is about a real life person, an artist who used to paint cats. He sort of introduced cats to the household, like he was. Yeah, I know.
What made you say yes?
It's period,
Okay.
and it's a designer that I worked with on a previous project, and we, so that's why it's quite difficult, but it's a challenging one, but it's good so far.
Okay, we'll look out for that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
At the minute, I'm watching a show on iPlayer called Dark Money.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm really enjoying that. So I'm 2 eps in, 2 more to go. I've literally just finished watching this Spanish one on Netflix called Money Heist. It's a bit indulgent. It's good fun.
Wait, do you approve of their scores, both shows?
I do.
Okay.
Especially Dark Money. I think the score for Dark Money is on point. Again, it's sort of exploring orchestral mixed with sort of synthesized textures and stuff. Very cool. But I'm also rewatching The Bodyguard, Jen Mercurio's Bodyguard. that's just like, that's a masterwork in
That's come up
storytelling.
twice today,
That is
also.
just phenomenal. And the score for that is amazing. So I'm rewatching that. Part entertainment, part research. But yeah.
What have you got coming up?
So I'm actually, after this, I'm heading back to the studio. I'm working on a short at the minute. It's called Clearing. It's about, you might remember, sort of, the story went viral some time ago. It's about a racial incident at a university. I forget which one. Was it in Nottingham, I think? The girl was racially abused in her halls by a couple of guys, and she had recorded it on her phone, and the university weren't really doing anything about it until she posted it on socials, and it went viral. And so it sort of turned into a big thing. So this story kind of explores what happens after that. So that's something I'm working on at the moment. I've got another animation coming up later on this year. I've got a TV doc coming up, and a piece of commercial work starting next week. So a few bits and pieces.
You're busy.
I like to be busy.
Yeah. Yeah, what are you watching and what's coming up next for you?
At the moment, I've been watching the latest show. So Mo Gilligan's current show. I think it's something that's very different, and it's been really interesting just seeing how that show's been set up, how that runs, and how it works. Something, again, it's refreshing. It's something different on screen. So that's been pretty good. At the moment, I'm working on a cut. So I was explaining briefly earlier. In my production company, we've kind of started producing some of our own content. So we're in development on a show we've been doing at the moment, and I guess we've co-produced with Tiger Aspect for this. So we're kind of very much heading towards the pitching stage. So it's kind of going through that whole production process at the moment. So it's quite exciting at the moment. And then in the next few weeks, I go back onto Pointless. So Pointless game show for BBC One. We're shooting another series. I think we're on series 23 now, and Pointless Celebrities. So we're doing that in September as well. So yeah, quite a busy time at the moment for me.
Cool. Yeah. I am. I've kind of come to the end of Back to Life, which was the Daisy Haggard comedy drama.
Edited properly?
Oh, very nice.
Okay.
I do enjoy it. I do enjoy it. I think it is very well made, actually. And Atlanta, I'm sort of watching at the moment. And then I've got a BBC Two Tiger Aspect new comedy series that starts in Manchester. They start shooting in a couple of weeks, so I'll be up for that. I'll be away for a while. Yeah.
Thank you, guys. It's nice and chilled. Did really well. Thank you very much.
Okay.
So, guys, this is the process. This is the fun part, stressful part for me, because I've got to try and explain it to you in 60 seconds. Okay, so the process. We spoke to some directors earlier on, and they came up with this wonderful idea. It's a sci-fi period drama set in 1875 Ghana, and there's a parallel world, 2019 London, against a backdrop of Brexit. We have 7 characters. Adamson Idris, Adeleye Adedeo, Noel Clarke, and they're all on the 1875 side of things. And in London, modern day London, we have Wumi Masaku, Whoopi Goldberg, Ben Barnes and Glenn Close. So what I need from you is to give us like a couple of steps that you would take to make sure you're ready to add your contribution to this project. And I'm going to start with Jan.
Okay, so first of all, the closest, I guess my skill set, I would have to be looking behind the scenes. I'd have to be looking at how this program is made. So the first thing I think is, right, first of all, I need 2 PSC crews who can go on location and be in depth and be in and around both sets of cast all of the time. I want to know who the main characters are. I want to know who's shooting it. I want to know how these two worlds are linking together. So I'm ensuring we've got a really strong DOP. We've got a really strong PD on from each side. Obviously the sound crew, and then we get an overall editorial angle over what's happening on each side. I think a lot of the preparation would be just about being around and in and around what's going on. But for me, that's just a lot of run and gun shooting.
Okay. Thank you. You did it quickly. Bridge.
Okay, well, stylistically they sound very, very different. So perhaps it would be that the 1875 stuff would have a different kind of naturalistic feel to it. So, you know, in terms of how the cuts would make and how it was kind of shot. and maybe the 2019 would be a bit more jump cutty, etc. And then perhaps the transitions between, you know, it might be sort of, you know, kind of snazzy kind of whiteouts, you know, whenever we cut to 1875. I don't know. I'm not that kind of editor, actually. I'm like, I'm a bit kind of straight cut girl. Maybe I'd say no to this.
No!
Not doing that.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, first thing would be to speak to the director and find out what's the overlap between these two very different spaces. Where are we going with it? And then once we've established what that is, then my next request would be a first class, all expenses paid research trip to Ghana.
Really?
Hell yeah!
I mean, you're Ghanaian. You can
I'm Nigerian. Nigerian and Jamaican.
Oh, why did I think you were Ghanaian?
I don't know.
I always
I don't know.
That's why
In any case, you're
Bankey.
eating into my time. Right, so all expenses paid trip. And on that trip, I would take my field recorder and I would hopefully be introduced to tribes and listen to local music and record as much of it as I can to help influence the sort of the sonic direction that I would take. Obviously, we're living in 2019 Brexit context London anyway, so you kind of got a feel of what that's about. And then I would take all those recordings that I've managed to harvest from my all expenses paid trip, and then do all sorts of sonic mangling to create this sort of sci-fi futuristic tribal sonic texture to help tell this story.
Thank you.
The first thing I'll do is read the script. The script should tell me what's going on.
Because obviously I didn't. Okay, sorry.
Well, the script's not quite written there. And find out if there's anything politically going on in 1875, what's shaping that world, who's in the background, what stories there's got to be told there with the people around them. Like you said, we're living in 2019, so that should be the easy part. And yeah, all expenses paid trip.
Oh, you also want to
I'll go and get some fabric samples, and you know, that would be good. That sounds like a good one. Go steal your idea. Yeah.
So, is this a job that you'd say yes to apart from Bridge?
Yeah.
I'd tackle it. For me, I'd have to find out the actual role that's suitable for me. Because again, I'm not a film guy. I've never worked in film, so I wouldn't be the person
behind the scenes DVD stuff.
Behind the scenes, not really me. So I wouldn't direct it, but maybe again, it's something I could make. I could maybe add value on if there was an angle on it and someone wanted me, but it's not really my area, so it's not something I'd particularly say yes to. I
would say yes.
Yeah, because you're going to Ghana.
Hell yeah.
Yes. Okay, guys, thank you so much. That was The Circle.